Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome or welcome back. I've been wanting to do this one for a while now and I finally got around to it. I actually filmed it before and then messed up and had to do it again. So this one was inspired by Austin at Eternal Reading. He mentioned the prompt or the idea of where were you when you read a book. All the memories, the nostalgia, and everything that came with it. Kind of share stories about your experience with the book. And he did suggest like 5 books, so I do have 5 books that I wanted to talk about today. The first one I know I've talked about before, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's a children's book. I've read it multiple times, but the story I want to share of where was I was one time I sent it to my friend in the Philippines and I waited for her to get it. When she did, we read it together. So essentially I read it to her while she was looking at it and stuff. She can speak English and everything. It's just something that we wanted to do together. And so that is one of my favorite memories involving this book. Where was I? I was in my bedroom because there is a 12-hour time difference between where I am in Michigan and the Philippines. So it was very late at night waiting for her to be available so that we could do this together. So that's one of my favorite memories, and I always think about that when I think about this book. Another one was another reread for me, and I've read this one a few times too, Address Unknown. This one's by Katherine Cressman Taylor, and although I've talked about it a few times, the time that I want to talk about that I remember vividly was I was listening to it on an audiobook with my mom, and we were driving down we live in Michigan, and so we were driving down to Indiana, South Bend, for a Notre Dame basketball game. So it was women's basketball, and it was Notre Dame versus UConn. When one of my favorite players, Paige Beckers, was still playing for UConn. And my mom is a huge basketball fan too, and she's a fan of Paige. So we got to see, Ozzy, or AZ, sorry, AZ and Paige and the UConn fantastic team play against a great Notre Dame team with Olivia Miles, who is in the WNBA now, along with AZ and Paige. But another great player is Hannah Hidalgo, who plays for Notre Dame, who had a fantastic game that night, and they ended up beating UConn. We were happy either way. It was just a great experience. I bought it as a Christmas present for us, so it was like an early Christmas present. And it's just over like around 2-hour drive. So we were trying to figure out what to listen to or something, and I just had her listen to Address Unknown. She had never heard it before, and just seeing the gut punch of an ending and have her experience that was really interesting, because it is such a short book. We were able to finish it before we drove down there and just discuss it and have a really great conversation, have a really great night. And then on the way back, we didn't listen to anything. We were just talking about the game and our excitement for the upcoming season and everything like that. So it's just a really good memory I have that I shared with my mom and this book. Another one is a bit of a sadder memory. So this is Gideon the Ninth by Tamron Muir. And this book I read the first time right after my grandma died. And my grandma was my person, and it was so unexpected. It ended up being COVID, but at the time, because it was December 2019, so she got sick the day after Christmas, and we had to pull the plug 3 days later It was so quick, so unexpected, and like I said, she was always my person, and I'm probably gonna cry even talking about this, but I actually, we had Christmas together, we had a great time, and then I went down to visit my friend in Chicago, so I drove down there and got called that she wasn't gonna make it, and that I had to get back because they were pulling the plug. And it's like a 3-hour drive from Chicago to my house, a little bit more depending on the traffic, and it was a weekend. And I drove home as fast as I could, and about halfway there, my mom called, and the rest of the family had already decided to not wait, and they pulled it, and so I didn't get that chance to say goodbye. So I spent the rest of the time crying and probably not very safely driving home, because I literally was sobbing horribly, not being able to be with her, not being able to say goodbye, being all alone when that happened, and just being completely like dumbstruck of how quickly it happened, since we had all just had Christmas together. And so I didn't know what to do, and I was kind of numb for a while. The funeral was really hard, and I just couldn't get into anything. Like, I just couldn't concentrate. I couldn't, I just didn't want to be around anyone. And then pretty soon I thought, well, maybe I'll try to read something, but I needed something just to get my mind completely off of everything that was going on. And so I chose this book, and I had 2 cats at the time, and one of them I still have, Ace. He was just a baby kitten, and his sister, Dutch, and they just sat with me and cuddled with me as I read this book and was immersed in a different world that took me out of my own for a little while. And so I have a very strong connection with this book. I do find it entertaining, and I do love it, but I think my experience with it just is connected to that time period and how it got me through what was the most difficult time of my life, and that loss and stuff. And so just the randomness of this book, the irreverence, the witty banter, the craziness, because you don't know what's happening. It's so out there, because it's kind of like a so it's sci-fi horror fantasy, so you got magic and stuff, and you have a necromancer who's like keeping her dead parents bodies alive so that she can like pretend like they're still the king and queen of their country or their world, I guess, and kind of rules through them. And she's only a teenager, and they don't know how to like approach her about what she's doing. And then you so much weird craziness, and then they still get sent to like another planet where it's essentially a locked murder mystery, like a locked room murder mystery, where they're on this planet that nobody can have access to, and people are dying, so that the murderer is amongst them. And it's all the different houses, which is all the different planets, and they're from the 9th house, and they all have their different religious aspects. They all have their different things they're good at. It kind of reminds me like the districts in Hunger Games, how they're each good at different things. Some were a little bit more important than others and stuff like that. And the 9th one was the kind of the forgotten one that nobody cared about or really thought about. And you follow Gideon as she and her enemy, who she has to protect while they're there, the girl who's been ruling through her parents, um, have to try to stay alive and like solve this mystery, figure out what is going on in the greater scheme of things, and all the bickering and interactions between them. It just was a fun story and exactly what I needed at the time. It's kind of just like the next book that I'm going to talk about. It's kind of just the experience of finding the book that you need when you need it, and how special that is and how important that is. They may not be, you know, the best books ever written, and it may not have resonated any other time, but when you read it in that moment, it was exactly what you needed. And books are so amazing that they can get you through that, and change you and help you in that kind of way. So similar is the next book, and it was actually a series, but I just have the my favorite in the series. So the series is the Sword of Truth by Terry Goodkind, but this is The Faith of the Fallen. This is, I believe, book 7, 6 or 7, I can't remember, because it's been gosh, years and years ago, like almost 2 decades ago. Probably about 15 or 16 years ago, that I read them. But when I did, so this series was made into a TV show that is so completely different from the actual book series. It's more geared towards like a family-friendly fantasy show with elements of the book series. But I didn't know that at the time, and so the show came on, and I was just really drawn to that world. I really loved some of the main character, Kaylin, and she was so mysterious, and I just wanted to figure out what her story was. So within that first season, I hurried up and read the first book, which is what it was based on, and I was fascinated. So I read the other 10 books in that series between the just that summer, so between the end of the first season and the beginning of the second season. And they're all really thick, and so that's what I spent the whole summer doing. And I believe it was the summer of 2009, and I feel like this was another one that hit me exactly how I needed it when I needed it. Like I said, I already connected really a lot with Kaylin, but in this book specifically, you get a very fantastic redemption arc for one of the villains, Nikki, who you met in book 2. And she essentially was a villain. She was horribly treated her whole life, and she, you know, even starting as a kid, her mom was even jealous of her for how beautiful she was. She kept getting abused by men. Actually, this whole book series, almost all the women got abused, except Kaylin was the only one who it didn't go like fully through to rape, but everybody else pretty much experienced all kinds of sexual assault, which it's not ideal for reading it, but like I said, it was something that I needed at the time. And so Nikki experienced things horribly and horribly. She even went within like the church, or the or the book's version of the church, and they, instead of helped her, continued to victimize her. And so when the option came to get more power, she jumped at it. And the problem was, in order to get power, you sell your soul to the devil, the keeper, and kill your own fellow witches to get their power, so that you can have essential absolute power. And she didn't do it because she was power hungry like the rest of her sisters the Night did. She specifically did it because she did not think that she had a soul, so it didn't matter to her if she sold it. And then the second reason was she just wanted to be strong enough to never be victimized again. which is ironic because as you meet her back in this book, she has been captured and her magic suppressed, and so she has once again become a slave to a man who uses her for her own for his own like agenda and sexual reasons. And so she just wants to escape, get her power back, and you kind of start to feel for her. But even though she's completely evil, it's not that you're so much rooting for her, but you just want her to be better. You can see that she's starting to realize that there might not, the way that she's been going about it has not been the right way, and maybe she has to make some changes. And so you get to see that the beginning of that in here. And then in later books, she has a full redemption arc, and it's so great to see. And it was the first time, like, I love redemption arcs, but I also love watching, the fall. So it was really great to see such strong female characters. This is my first real foray into fantasy, and this is what got me hooked on it and wanting to read all through fantasy all throughout. And I feel like it just found me when I needed it, and helped me understand things, think deeply about things, heal from things. And I just really connected with Kaylin first, Kara later, and then specifically Nikki. And Nikki remains one of my absolute favorite characters. So I just have such a very important place in my heart for these stories, even though I haven't reread them for like 15 years. But when season 2 started, you get introduced to Nikki. She didn't have her full redemption arc because the show got canceled and ended. But you get a lot more interaction, and you see Kara's redemption arc, which was just as brilliantly done. But what I wanted to share, and since we're talking about nostalgia more than a book review, is because that book meant so much for me, and I was younger at the time, and I actually wrote to the actress who plays the character of Kaylin. I did a sketch of her and Kaylin and Richard, or Kaylin, Kara, and Richard, the main characters in season 2. And so I did a sketch and sent it to her, and just basically said thank you for portraying Kaylin. She's such an important character, and thank you for bringing this series to life. Thank you. Because of that series, I was able to find the books, and like I said, meeting the character of Nikki really changed and influenced me. And so I just, wanted to say thank you. I was not expecting her to then send me a picture. And so she said, so dear Jamie, that's my legal name instead of JJ. Thank you so much. And then she sent it's not even like a headshot or anything. Like, it's actually, she sent me this in another picture from behind the scenes, basically just a snapshot and stuff, which I thought was really cool, and I was not expecting it. So I did frame it, so I have it in my room. I had to actually get it for my storage unit a couple of months ago when I went and was kind of decorating my new bookshelf, and I wanted to make sure I had that, just because I really think it's important to know that media influences and inspires people, whether it's TV, movies, or books. And like I said before, I really love that the right book finds you at the right time. And I someday do want to reread these, or at least my favorite in the series. I do have a couple of them that I would like to reread, just to see if they hold up. Part of me is really scared too, just because I have such great memories of the whole experience, and that spending that whole summer just immersed in this world. But I'm scared that it's going to be disappointing rereading it, since I've read so many other fantasies and so many other books since then. I'm worried whether or not it will live up to it. Sometimes it's better just to leave the nostalgia and just keep the past in the past. And sometimes you bring in something completely different to your reread, and you might have baggage, or you might have a new learned experience that makes it even more meaningful and deep. You just don't know. And so it's always a gamble when you reread a favorite of whether or not it's going to remain high on that list for you. And this was one in particular that I've just been scared to revisit. But I just love the idea of how when you have your books on your shelf, you have all this nostalgia surrounding it, whether it's the book that you read and you get to relive some of these experiences that we're sharing in this video series. But also I want to do a series where we don't talk about where were we when we read the book, but where were we when we purchased it. I've gotten a lot of them on road trips, or from as gifts, or just maybe where were you in life, like what made you pick that book. And when those are on our shelves, they have just as much nostalgia. Book collecting is as much of a hobby as reading is. They're just completely different kinds of hobbies. And when you read a book and you can remember where you were, what it felt like reading it, and you have all these experiences going into your reading experience, and whether you love the book or you hate the book, or you identify with one character over another, you have all this lived experience that you bring into the book. With book collecting, you have the experience of choosing that book. Maybe you haven't even read it yet, but it's on your shelf, and you look at it and you remember where you were when you picked it up. You remember what brought you there. You remember what you wanted from that book, and you have all these expectations rather than experiences attached to these unread books on your shelf. And I think that that's just as much of an important thing to hold close, and it will be just as much fun to share those kinds of memories as it is to share the memories of having read the book. So I do intend to do that. I just have to pick out which books I want to discuss for that one. But as always, I'm just really grateful for this community and Austin for creating this video prompt and this idea. And if anyone else who hasn't done it before wants to share some of their experiences when they read something, go ahead and write it in the comments, or do a video response yourself and show us the books and tell us where were you when you read them. Thank you, and happy reading.